What's up, Facebook? I see the red light. It means we're live.
You got all the moves. I'm just gonna sit here, man. You make it look good.
I don't know about all that. We do have the hippest music in live feed shows, I'm just saying.
That's some serious subwoofer going there, man. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we're jamming. See, I brought the new speakers in.
Every week is something new.
Studio reference monitors.
Well, let's get going. I'm ready to go.
Bam! Like and share the show. Hurricane or no hurricane, that's right. The real deal. Roger Hernandez, thanks for tuning in.
Harvey who?
That's yeah. Bam. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the Whine No Whine Show, the only show where you can be friended and offended all in the same hour. We are on a mission here with the Whine No Whine Show to save America. No small task, right? We have a problem. We can't seem to talk without calling each other Nazis and libtards. It's gotten frickin' stupid. So we're here to save the day, one civil conversation at a time. We're going to start the show with a great glass of wine. We're going to let the guests introduce themselves really quick. 1 minute for a shameless plug. Who knows what they're going to say. I'm going to start pouring today's glass of wine. Today, this is called Terrazas. And this is a Malbec. It's a reserve from Mendoza, Argentina. Fantastic wine. I've seen the ratings on it on Vivino. You want to check it out, hop on there. Great looking wine. We'll let you know by the end of the show what we think of the wine, and we'll give it a rating at the end of the show. So sit tight, hold your pants, because it's going to be a great show. We're going to be talking about the Civil War. Was it fought over slavery? What's going on with all these statues? Should we take down the Statue of Liberty because it's offensive? I don't know. I'm sure we'll cover all kind of crazy topics within the subject. So, without further ado, Mr. Joe, take it away.
Yes, sir. My name is Joseph. I'm just here to have a nice discussion with these fellows. And my shameless plug of the day, I usually don't have one, but a friend of mine gave me this hat. And we are going to make real estate great again. Believe me, bigly, I'm telling you. So if you have any real estate needs, come talk to me. It's going to be the greatest real estate transaction you have ever seen. Believe me.
All right. Well, Randall Chesnutt here. I have a digital agency, but also have a public figure page that I am rolling out September 6th called the All In Entrepreneur Show. It'll be nothing like this show.
Nothing like this
It'll
show.
talking about entrepreneurship, and really the whole idea of my show that is going to make it different is people give great advice, but they don't actually give you the stuff to help you, like some real tools that you can actually like download or get. So I'm going to take those. Whoa, look at that! I had to hear myself. So I'm going to have that show. You can go over to our Randall Charles Chesnutt page. That's my public figure page. Follow me there. Got some really cool stuff. And I'm excited to talk about our topic today.
David.
Oh, you don't introduce yourself, Joe?
No!
You already did.
I'm the host of the show. Joe Orsack. Deal with it.
I am wearing my shameless plug today.
Woo!
That way I don't forget like I did last time.
Ashley, send them a bill.
David Pipkin. I'm with Scott Thomas Homes. I'm a community sales manager over in Stone Creek Ranch, and we also do custom build on your lot and over in Town Lake as well. So anywhere from the upper 200,000s all the way up into the millions of dollars, we got you covered. So we might need to talk because we've already made home building great again.
Oh,
just so you know.
boy.
That was really good.
Point of contention.
Oh, no. He's real estate. I want to bring him on. Let's bring these great buyers.
I'm going to call
great
you
real
Steve
estate
Bannon.
Oh,
You're
no.
going to be my right hand.
Yeah, because Trump is going to hire all the best people and then fire them.
You might get fired, though, Dave. Like I said.
Also, want to make mention that normally on Friday nights, once I'm done here, you would find me over at Casa Nueva. However, because we have some guy coming into town named Harvey,
Right.
they've decided to shut that place down early tonight. They're still serving dinner until 8 o'clock, So make sure and go there and get some good food once you have had a chance to watch and share the show.
Where's
Right
this
there,
at?
Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Like and share.
1960 in Kirkendall, North Houston, FM
Oh, okay.
1960 in Kirkendall. Every Friday night I'm there, 7 until whenever, performing music almost live. Just not tonight because of this dude Harvey that when we find out what he's up to, we're going to have to beat him down.
You beat him down. Absolutely. We promote violence on this show.
There we go.
Only to guys named Harvey.
Only the
Let's
guys
get-
named Harvey.
let's
who
get
are
in.
500 miles wide.
All right.
All right.
Real quick, guys, we have a really cool thing going on. You will want to click on send message on the page and put in the words contest details. Contest details. If you've just tuned into the show, we've got a big show, big contest going on the page. You can win a prize. Find all about it. Find all about it by typing contest details into the message. Just click on the blue button on the page that says send message, drop those words in. It's going to tell you all about the contest details and how you can win a big prize. So, Joe,
Yes.
David, I don't know who wants to chime in first here. Randall, real quick, bullet point, kind of a statement. Civil War. Was it fought over slavery? Was it even a civil war? All right? There's specific terms here at hand. We've had a lot of issues going on lately with the dealing with statues and being taken down and people getting upset about statues and all that sort of thing. And we're going to talk about this, guys. You guys chime in as well. What's your take on this situation? Should those statues be coming down? Are you familiar with the term Civil War and what it really has a definition, what that term means? Did America fight a civil war and was it over slavery? What's your thoughts? Joe?
I think Randall's gonna have to start. He's twitching over here.
Oh,
just
no,
to say
I'm just
something.
sorry.
I don't know what's going
I
on.
don't even know what I'm going to say. Go ahead.
No, I'm.
All right, David, you start off. You start off.
I'll kick it off. We all know the popular narrative that's been ingrained in all of us from grade school that Abraham Lincoln was the great emancipator and the North wearing the white hats came in and eradicated slavery from the South who were wearing the black hats and of course the North were all about fair and equal treatment of black people and the South was all about making sure we spread slavery and you know the thing is if you look at that issue from the other side, we were discussing that before the show. The reality is that, first of all, a civil war, the war between the states, or what I call the war for Southern independence, was no more of a civil war than was the American Revolutionary War. And second of all, it was not fought over slavery. While slavery was an issue that divided the northern states and the southern states and divided a lot of people in both regions, it was not the reason we went to war. And I'll jump off at that and say that's my position.
All right.
Well,
Randall.
I think if I could just keep it sum it up.
Yes.
That all that aside, people who argue emotion and you argue fact, right? And
We try. Well, yeah.
you know that's what you should.
Right.
You should.
We want to order fact, but let me.
You want to
get
get to the facts of the matter,
Or argue
And
facts emotionally.
Yeah, and sometimes facts are based on who you are. If you were somebody, who, and I can't be back in that day. I can only assume that they were emotional creatures too, and that they would felt like some of the people who fought that war fought it to free slaves. And if you ask those people, and if you could travel back in time and ask those people, was the war fought by you over slavery? And they would probably say yes.
For them. It was.
For them. And because I really think the war was fought over many different things. It was fought over commerce because you had the business people. They wanted to, because they were using the slaves to get cheap labor, basically.
Right.
And so you had commerce. You could say you had the war was a commerce war. Just you could say it was a civil war. You could say it was a revolutionary war. You could say it was a war over ideologies. It still doesn't reduce the fact that we are humans and that we have emotions and that we're almost always going to gravitate towards emotion reaction first. And if you ask somebody emotionally what they thought, of course, back at that time, they're going to say different things. They're going to say that whatever was related to the war for them. If they had slaves and they were going to lose money, that war was probably fought because of money issues. If you were a slave and you wanted to be free, I probably was pretty certain that they would have disagreed that it wasn't, over slavery. and then all the other issues. So it was several different wars in one. So I don't think there's any one right answer. But if you ask me of a civil war, yeah, I think that there was a civil war inside of that. So yeah, that's mine.
Were there
1 minute
yes.
summary take on.
No, I have I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
4 minutes.
Yeah, so check it out.
So 5 minutes?
I'm wanting to get from you. Do you think America fought a civil war? Do you think it was fought over slavery?
I kind of agree with Randall here. I don't think it was, you know, people now say Civil War, it was all about slavery. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Were there not black people that fought on a certain side that you would say, hey, shouldn't you be, you know what I mean? Like, just like nowadays, if you have a black person who says, hey, I support Trump, it's way out there. Like, what are you doing? You're an Uncle Tom. You self-hating.
Don't get me started on that subject.
So yeah, so it's not all about
Please
that.
jump in, Joe.
It's not all about that, right?
Yeah.
Jump in, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, I have to agree with Randall on that. There was a lot of different things. there are a lot of different things fought into one. It wasn't just, hey,
So let me
slavery or no slavery.
Let me do this. I don't normally do this, but because I don't have a great retention of quotes, like, you know, I know Joe sometimes will throw quotes out there he knows from the back of his brain. I am going to refer to a website, and this is just a couple of short quotes because Randall mentioned going back, if you talk to the people involved at that time, what would they say? Well, here's one key individual, a guy named General Robert E. Lee. I think he was pretty instrumental in the whole war. He said, there are few, I believe, in this enlightened era who would not agree with me that slavery as an institution is a moral and political evil. And then another guy that you might have heard of, his name, well, I'll save his name. His quote says, the sole object of this war is to restore the Union. Should I become convinced it has any other object, or that the government designs its soldiers to execute the wishes of the abolitionists, I pledge you my honor as a man and a soldier, I would resign my commission and carry my sword to the other side. That was Ulysses S. Grant. Was the Civil War fought over slavery? And was it a civil war?
So I'll make my point on that one.
Sure.
All right, hang on. Save it. I'm coming right back to you. Right?
He's really trying, Joe.
Oh, no,
Great.
I'm
You did a great job. Real quick, there's been a couple questions. First of all, Charity, thanks for tuning in. Francis, thanks for tuning in. Jessica, thanks for being on the show. Raquel, I saw you said finally made it to the show. Great.
Hey, there's my mama.
Thanks for having it. Your mom tuned in?
Hey, my mom tuned in.
All right.
Get
Check
back
that
in the
out.
kitchen. I'm just kidding.
Which
Miss
one's your mom?
Moncada, thank you for being on
Oh,
the
cool.
Thank you for tuning in, Miss Moncada. Thanks for being on the show. Real quick, wanted to mention, guys, because I saw there was a question about it. You have to type in contest details into the message. So you want to go to the Whine No Whine Show page, click on send message, and drop in the words contest details, and it will give you the details. If you put it in the feed, it's not going to do anything. That may be possible in the future. I still am learning the software. It's crazy complicated, but it does a gabillion things, and it's really, really cool.
What's the prize?
So the prize is, I guess I'll go ahead and say it. I'm trying to rope people into inquiring
We
for
like
the details.
facts around here. What's
All
the prize?
right. So we're giving away the brand new, one of a kind, grape head.
2017.
Yeah,
Oh.
2017
Camaro.
2017 new model T-shirt. The I'm a Grape Head T-shirt and a premium bottle of wine. Yes, it's the wine we get on the show. You're going to get one of the premium bottles of wine from our wine club, and the one of a kind. Nobody else has them. You can only get them here on the show. I'm a Grape Head T-shirt, where the back says "In Vino Veritas," in wine truth, and that's the whole premise of the show. So hop over and click on send message on the Whine No Whine Show page. Drop in the words contest details. It will tell you what you need to do to be able to enter. All right. So Randall, responding to his point.
Yes.
He's been waiting.
Well, you know, if you look back, Lee and Grant on different opposing sides, saying they probably reversed the sides. You have to go up a level higher and say, well, who were those people really fighting for? Because they didn't choose; they were basically hired to fight these wars. You're going to be the general for the North. You're going to be the general for the South. And if you look at it, was big business. It's the same reasons that you have the parties today. You have a Democratic Party. You have
That's a great point.
different companies for here and different companies for there, right? So then you
I
have
always
to
say
look
follow
at
the
who. Yeah, follow the money. If you follow the money, yeah, get that.
Don't leave me
Follow
hanging.
the money. If you look at, well, did these guys, when you're a general, haven't been in the military, and I don't know if you were in the military, right?
Not a general.
You follow orders. You follow orders whether you're a general or you're a private. Somebody
Certainly.
above you, it eventually moves up to a civilian. And whoever that civilian was that told these guys, sometimes you don't always agree with their opinions. So was the war fought over slavery is the question.
Right.
And your response was, well, these guys were
Okay.
saying that they would have changed sides. Because if you go all the way down to the root, what were they fighting over? It was money. And with the money, the taxation that was being generated, and all the money that was being moved through cheap labor, and it's not changed since then. We moved it from slaves to people in Vietnam.
Okay.
All right, and
Dave,
that's a bigger jump than I would make, but we agree, but I don't know that you know why we agree, because going back to what was happening in the North at the time, and again, there's no way to give an all-encompassing answer to a single one of these questions. Every it's so complicated.
It is actually very
Everything is going to
complicated.
be fallible at some level. You can find a way to poke hole into any answer. So if you look at this, rather than trying to provide all-encompassing answers, but more like pieces of a great big giant jigsaw puzzle, it's got 10,000 pieces or more, then it starts to come together. So some of the questions that come up from that were, why, to your point, that being about money, why was the North so interested in abolishing slavery? Okay, these are some of the deeper questions that aren't visited, because it had nothing to do with how black people were treated in the North. It did have to do with what you're talking about, cheap labor.
Right.
And they got exactly what they were looking for. They got a huge influx upon the end of the war, and when Reconstruction started in the South, there was a mass exodus of blacks moving to the North under the auspices, with the delusion, as it turned out, that this was the promised land. We're going to be free, we're going to be equal, we're going to be treated like white people, right? We're going to be able to get jobs and earn a living for our families, have our own homes, all that kind of stuff. What did they find?
Chicago.
Well, I don't think so.
I'm waiting.
worse.
I'm
Detroit.
Joe, I'm waiting for someone to comment saying
Sorry,
that
that was so wrong.
you're white, you shouldn't be talking about that.
I know.
Well,
I'm waiting
but until
for
they
it,
do,
and
give them
when
credit.
it comes up, can tech support
I have
let
a
us know?
response.
I gotta say though, our audience is very good about that. I've
Yeah.
been very
Well,
pleasantly
now that I
surprised
said
to
it,
never
maybe
see
they'll
that.
say
Well,
something. But,
Hey, I think we had a number of people chime in. Harvey, I don't know if you're still on. Harvey Hernandez.
Harvey,
Harvey,
Harvey
are
tuned in.
you the Harvey? I didn't know his last
Harvey
name.
tuned in. Today is all your fault, Harvey.
get
Harvey,
out of here.
Harvey, I follow, Harvey. I talk to Harvey, and we are probably politically as different as it gets. But I always value his opinion. So Harvey, feel free to chime in on the page here. I love the audience interaction this show is all about. You guys are the member on the show just as much as the guys that are sitting here in this discussion. So let's talk about it, right? So Harvey, chime in. Mike Stoltes, thanks for tuning in, brother. Michael Smith, thanks for joining. Jessica Frost, oh my gosh, this is my gal out at Huntington Learning Center out in the Woodlands. Great gal, love her her business over there. Fantastic job they do. Anyway,
He's going to charge you for that, Jessica.
right, I'll send you a bill, Jess. Chime in. We appreciate it. Appreciate you guys being part of the show. All right, so listen, this is what we're talking about. Was the Civil War fought over slavery?
And was it a civil war?
And was it a civil war? That's the question on the table. And Mike says, hey, let's talk about wine. We got wine, brother. You already missed it. You should have been here.
Joe, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
With everything that's going on now, over at the college UC Berkeley, they're shutting down conservative speakers over there,
True.
rioting, starting fires, things like that.
True.
And a lot of these people say, "Oh, we're starting Civil War II." Okay, this is what this is what these people.
By
say.
the way, Joe, Tabriz says, I enjoy that you're white and you're talking about this.
Tabriz,
So
get
there
on
it
the
is.
show. If not, yeah, thank you. Turn the screen off.
I'll say right now, Tabriz, you are on the show.
The S is silent, Joe.
Huh?
The S is silent.
Tabri, is it?
There you
Is
go,
it?
yeah.
Okay, sorry, Tabrice.
I'm assuming.
You had this again.
I don't know. Tabrice, I never even thought to ask. Tabrice or Tabri. You'll have to correct me. Either way, you are on the show as much as the people on the show. So please chime in and talk about it. The idea of the show isn't that we're here one side to be right, one side to be wrong, or otherwise. The idea of this show is to get people talking like civil, rational adults, rather than name-calling, slandering each other, insulting each other, and going out and trying to burn your car down simply because we don't even freaking agree.
Right.
It's okay to disagree. I promise you won't grow a disagree tumor and die. It's going to be okay.
In fact,
So-
I think that it would maybe come across as slightly more racist if I said that I'm only respecting your opinion because you're white, right?
Could be.
You know,
So-
I mean, that's the thing. What we're talking about here
Joe
is
is not, we barely let him
No,
on
no,
the
no, hold on.
We barely let him on the
No,
show.
no,
I mean,
by the standard of George Zimmerman, he is white Hispanic. So
Exactly.
that's why he's here, because we are come on.
Okay, so I got it.
go ahead, Randall. Oh yeah, Joe was finished. He had a question.
Until
and that's your turn.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We got distracted.
We got distracted by
the S.
debris. Yeah. Anyway,
Ty-Breeze.
Ty-Breeze.
that's what I said. Debris.
But she has Briss. Ty-Briss.
No.
Do you say the
Yeah,
S?
say whatever you
Clear it
say.
up for us, Tyreese. Is it? Do you say the S?
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, because nobody
Okay.
asked how you pronounce my
I'm sorry,
name.
that's.
Okay,
Go.
so
Well, here's Joe.
anyway, so now they're talking about Civil War #2. They're shutting down colleges for now, as we can see Exhibit A here, just by being white you're wrong, right? And I don't like that. Okay, so they're saying, okay, you're white or you wear a red hat like this. You're racist.
With
you're
white
a Nazi.
lettering on it.
You're a Nazi.
Even better.
You know, all these type of names.
If you support Trump, you're obviously a racist.
Okay, so they're saying,
I wasn't gonna say it. I
they're
mean, but you
saying
went there,
Civil
so.
War #2, right? So what about if something were to happen, something crazy were to happen, to where people were to fight? According to some people, this would be fought over racism. Is it really about racism? No, it's not. It's about you guys are attacking people, starting fires, putting bike locks in socks, hitting people that have permits that can protest, right? Whether you agree with them or not. And they decided, hey, we got to fight back. Is it fought over racism? No, it's not. It's fought over violence because you guys are attacking whoever these people are.
I have to say this because that's to your point. It's a great point. And I know, Randall, you've got something right after this. I didn't vote for Trump. Yet, I constantly get put in a position where I'm defending him because he's either in the right for doing what he does in his role as president, like constitutionally speaking, he has the power to do what he's doing, right? And I'm like, look, whether you like it or not, he has the constitutional authority to do that, right? And if you don't like it, then work to get the law changed. But just wanting to impeach him or calling people a racist because they support that is wrong. And I'm going, I didn't vote for the guy. Dang it, I don't even care for him, So I'm like, but I get put in a position to have to be there. It's the same thing where I'm like, I end up defending people I don't agree with.
Right.
Like the whole alt-right thing in Charlottesville, I'm like, they got a permit, they went about doing it the right way.
Yeah, we don't agree with them.
Right, they're freaking morons.
But they were there, like, legally.
Well, I don't even trust what percentage of that group was actually what's being referred to as alt-right.
Yeah,
because
that's no
there
doubt,
are
no
a
doubt.
lot of people there, like myself, who would be there defending the right of those monuments to stand.
Right. And listen,
those were brought about by state legislation. Okay, that our Constitution gave us a platform where we had the right to government at the local level.
Right.
The states are sovereign. The people of those states, whether we like it or not, we're in Texas. The people of those states, whether it's South Carolina, whether it's North Carolina, Kentucky, where the Jefferson Davis Memorial is, or any of that other stuff, the point is they were the ones that their representatives put those monuments up. Why does what I think matter a bit whether those monuments stand or not? We were founded under a mantra of states' rights because government is local and the states are sovereign. And that is the government by the consent of those they govern. That happens at the state level as far as our federal country is concerned. And we've totally flipped that. And that's where you see these rights of the individuals as well as the states. It happens first at the state level, and then it'll get right down to the individual level where our rights will be trampled.
I agree.
Randall want to say something.
Tybreeze, thank you. She said, I think it's refreshing. I didn't say that being white is wrong. By the way,
No, you're wrong, Joe.
we're totally playing.
You're
we're
wrong,
totally
Joe.
playing. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you chiming in and being a part of the show on a very, very serious topic. And we'll love to have you on the show, by the way. So message me about being on the show. But for now, you're in the comment feed and you're on the show through the comments. So please respond and comment on.
For my part, I will say to is it Tybreeze?
Tybreeze, she did have the S on there. Yeah,
okay.
Tybreeze.
So Tybreeze, looking directly
Say
to the
yes.
camera for a chance, I apologize because I wrongly drew an assumption from your comment that you were saying something you weren't saying. So I was wrong there.
Yeah.
David, you
Right.
don't have to apologize for everything, David.
On that, I
It's
do.
okay, yeah.
Let
no.
it go. Let it
I
You know
go.
what?
You
No.
got white guilt, David. You got white guilt. Let it go,
That's not
man.
white guilt, trust me.
She wasn't.
All right.
She wasn't apologizing.
Randall, you had a point.
Randall, your turn.
I'm gonna try to sum it up really fast, and it's gonna sound long. It's not. When I went to class. Yeah, I did go to a couple of classes in college. One of them was a philosophy class. He was a real rocket scientist at NASA. Was a teacher. First day of school, walked to the door. He had a seat chart. He gave me a piece of paper. Said, "Don't look at it. Your seat is row 3, seat 3. Go sit down. Don't read anything. I'll tell you what to do with that." Come in. He does that with everybody. We all sit down. He tells a little bit about himself. He goes, "Oh, you wonder about this piece of paper now? This is what I want you to do. I want you to read the paper, and I want you to find all the letter F's that you can find in that paper. I want you to be 100% certain that there's." I'm going to give us 10 seconds. Okay, stop. Put it down. He goes, "I'm going to give you one more time that you would risk dying that you are right on those numbers. Look at it. Timed us for another 10 seconds. Put it down. Okay." He said, "Okay." And he wrote on the board 6, 7. He wrote 4, 5, 6, 7. And he said, "By show of hands, how many people found 4 letter F's in their saying?" A few people raised their hand. He said, "How many found 5?" A few people. "How many found 6?" A few people. And then he says, "Randall, stand up, read me yours." I read mine. Sat down. He said, "Ashley, read me yours." She stood up. It was exactly the same one. Whole point is he had a few people read it, and we all realized we all had the same saying. And then he had a map. You remember in school you pull it and it slides up in a little thing, and on the chalkboard it says perception is truth. And that was his opening segment for philosophy, was that what you perceive to be true, don't look for answers from me, because it's going to be true to you in philosophical terms.
But how does that apply to this discussion?
You didn't let me finish it.
Let him.
So when people
Land the plane, Randall.
when I got to land in the plane.
Land the plane.
Here comes the plane.
You got
Here
to
comes the plane.
But the thing about when you debate things, you have to give context to everything.
Sure.
Because if you just throw it out there, then there's no context
Right.
behind it.
We're
so
with you. Go
so
ahead.
now we can understand that everyone operates off of their own perceptions based on their whole life experiences, where they grew up, who they hung out with, how their parents treated them. So when we're communicating with people on knowing that perception is truth to them, we have to first, if we know without a doubt that their facts are skewed, right? We have to address their issues first and understand where perception.
Still hear
first.
them, right?
And still hear them,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, yeah, I could see why you have thought that. And if you ask people now, and even in certain segments back then, was the war fought on slavery? They would say yes. And based on the outcome, slaves were not emancipated until after the war. The result was that they were free. They were free in the sense of that they had rights that they didn't have before. Now, were they truly free? Back again, perception is truth. That's my point.
Okay, so but there, and I'm not going to get into it right now because I know there's other points we're trying to get to, but there is empirical evidence you can look at as fact of history that shows that it wasn't about slavery. There were at least 3 states that joined the Confederacy that had nothing to do with their position on slavery. So, you know, what happens is, let me give you a common example, and I've encountered this over the last several days because this has been a hotly debated topic on social media, okay? And one of the,
Real quick.
Yeah, John.
Stephanie?
also don't forget
Yes.
other comment that was
Yes.
up there.
Stephanie, you said, sorry, I disagree. Stephanie, please clarify what you disagreed with so that we can address the comment on the show. Tybreeze said this whole talk is something that we need to have.
Yes.
Couldn't agree more.
Can you go up to the comment that was
With Roger?
Roger,
Yeah.
yes.
Roger said, while many still debate the ultimate causes of the Civil War, Pulitzer Prize-winning author James McPherson writes that the Civil War started because of the uncompromising differences between the free and slave states over the power of the national government to prohibit slavery in the territories that had not yet become states. So, in other words,
I want to vote on that.
about,
There's something I want to say
about state power, and do the states have sovereignty in choosing their economic structure, or can the federal government override? That, I think, that was getting to the point of what he was talking about. David,
Well, that
finish
is
your
one of
point.
the best, Roger. Kudos to you. In fact, I'm going to clink with you on the show.
Clink Roger.
Clink to Roger, because the thing is, that's one of the best comments that, you know, you can't make a single comment that is all encompassing on the war between the states, or whatever
Very
you want to
true.
call it. But that is as close to accurate as you can get, because what he's talking about there is that the uncompromising differences weren't necessarily over slavery, because we had compromised over slavery. The South and the North had compromised over slavery since the founding. Slavery was an issue that existed at the time we were founded as a nation. And our founders saw fit to figure out a way to compromise so that the whole Union could move forward together. Horace Greeley is one that, and again, this is research I've done in the past few days, so it's still fresh in my mind, but he wrote a comment that if you cannot come up with a substantial argument against why the American Revolution should have taken place and why we declare our separation from England, then there's no basis upon which you can declare that the South could not declare their separation from the Union. Even if you agree with the Union on the position of slavery, they did not separate because of slavery. They separated because if you read the Articles of Secession, there was a long train of abuses that was being visited upon the southern states by the Union, by the federal government. They were not being afforded protection from the Indians. They were not being afforded protection from various savages that roamed the plains. There's a long list of complaints that they made about why they left, and one of the biggest complaints was about the unfair system of taxation through the tariff system, by which the southern states were paying 87% of the annual tax revenue collected by the government, and then the government was turning around and giving the subsidies to northern public works and northern manufacturing companies. This is me landing the plane, coming all the way back to the point when I was talking to Randall.
I was about to get there.
About 5 minutes ago, you talked about money. Why did the North want the slavery to be abolished? For the influx of cheap labor. It had nothing to do with any improved rights of the black people in the northern states, had nothing to do with an improved economic condition. It was completely about money.
You said the same thing. What I said, it was over slavery. You said exactly what I said. If you say all of that, then you have to agree that they used that as a premise for going to war. It's no different than Pearl Harbor.
But
There's
that
a
wasn't the main
distinction that
source.
we're missing in that.
Let me
though.
say
That
this.
wasn't the main
This
source.
I'll tie them together. We were sucked into the war. Franklin Roosevelt had to figure out how is he going to convince Americans to agree to let us go to this war. There's been documented proof that they had deciphered the Zephyr Code. They knew that Pearl Harbor was going to happen, and they let it happen because they needed to get Americans behind the war, and they did because they let them bomb it. Similar, I would state that idea was the same reason that they used slavery to get everybody to on either side, either people who was opposed or for it, for
But
whatever reason.
Abraham Lincoln himself speaks against your point.
For whatever reason they were for it or against it, that's what they used to cause the war.
Speaking of Abraham Lincoln, this is how. Now I don't like to speak on things that I'm not 100% certain on,
I love his logs.
which
His syrup.
Let's go.
And his syrup. That's right. Big fan.
so but you know, this whole thing with the statues that are going on, I was gonna come on the show.
yeah, Austin. What you were going to talk about
yeah,
Austin?
I
with
was
the
gonna
statues.
come on the show today, and Joe he sent me a message, hey, can you be on the show? I said yeah. He said don't wear any Lee jeans because you know Lee from Robert E. Lee.
That's
So
right.
said,
I was going to
you know
have
what?
everybody take off their pants before the show if
So
they were
I
wearing
had
Lee
to-
jeans.
Yeah, I had to turn back around to
Unacceptable.
the house. I had to put on some Levi's. As of right now, Levi's are okay. Am I correct?
Well, there's
No.
still 2 of the 3 letters in there, so you're real close.
So-
I
yeah,
know
real
Lee and Vise. I don't know.
So I changed into Levi's, and I came on the show. But anyway, my point is, you got like this. You talk about Abraham Lincoln in Chicago. They torched. Did you hear about that? They torched a statue or a headstone
Of Abraham
not,
Lincoln?
Not a headstone. You know what do they call it? A
Bust.
Yeah, bust.
Hey.
Of Abraham Lincoln, because Abraham Lincoln's racist, which doesn't make any sense. It's Abraham Lincoln.
It makes sense.
It does not make sense.
Joe?
It does not make sense.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then let's torch the Ronald McDonald.
All right, hang on.
Let's torch
hang on.
KFC.
Hang on.
I mean, come on.
What do you think?
I will take this opportunity to exercise the point of the show. Right. The point of the Why No Wine show, guys, isn't to argue that one side is right.
Correct.
You can find any myriad of talk shows out there. If it's Fox, you know what side they're arguing. They're going to try to present the conservative view and that the conservative view is right. If it's CNN, the Communist News Network,
Counterfeit News Network.
you'll see my bias right
Clown
there.
News Network.
Sorry. Listen, if it's CNN, you know what position they're coming from. If it's MSNBC, you know what position they're coming from. The Why No Wine show isn't about any of that. So listen, guys, when you're commenting, know this. The point of this show is to learn how to ask people questions, to try to see the other side, to understand the other person's viewpoint. That's what we're frickin' lacking in America right now. That's our doggone problem. It's like, as soon as I disagree with you, well, I hate you. You're a Nazi, or Hitler, take your pick. So, great moment here. Joe doesn't agree with David.
My point was, okay,
why?
so you said...
Let's find out why.
Yeah, okay, so...
But you were saying it doesn't make sense, and I said it does. You never gave me a chance to explain why
go
it
ahead.
makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead, okay.
Okay, because Abraham Lincoln was on record as, first of all, being a white supremacist, saying that he believed that in the social order of things, that the blacks were subservient to the whites, and whites were the preferred class. Okay, he's on record as that. Now, there's a common narrative out there that he somewhere along the way evolved and abandoned that principle. But the best evidence that we can see of that, and I'll grant you, it's murky because some of it is very circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
But Lincoln, well into the war, in fact, in December, and again, we need to go back and fact check this because I'm not 100% sure I'm accurate. I want to say it's December of 1862. Lincoln met with a group of black clergymen to discuss with them the idea of colonization. That's where Liberia came from. Liberia was a place that started off as a colony in Africa that Lincoln was going to send all the black population. He also gave them the option of going to Central America. Okay, there was also talk of another colony site here in Texas. Okay, so his point was that were it not for blacks, there wouldn't be slavery, but that without slavery, blacks and whites probably would have no chance of coexisting together in the United States of America. This is Abraham Lincoln. Right. And there's a point in here, I was just looking to see if I could find it again, but Lincoln basically looks at this group of black clergymen and basically tells them, think white. Right. If we could get a group of you to think intelligently and think like white men, you would see the benefits of this action of colonization rather than you trying to stay here. Right. Now, that was well into 1862, and there's evidence by this article that I posted on my page. I'll post it to the Wine No Wine Show page. But he supported that well up until the month that he was assassinated, April of 1865, where he was still supporting colonization.
Racist views going on.
Right. Now, there's no perfect person, and any point in time is going to have its effect on any one of us. I look at America today, and I look at if you want to compare crimes and the black eye on America, I say abortion puts slavery to shame. But we still have a great number of the population that will go out there and talk about, and with intelligent thought. I mean, there's a great guest we had on the show recently that would, a good point. Yeah. They'll say that. And what are we talking about? We're talking about slaughtering human beings.
That's a good point. And maybe 50 to 100 years from now, some people are going to be on the Tequila No Wine show saying the exact same thing that we're saying now about abortion.
Now, what they'll be talking about, when... First off, we have to make a new rule for the show.
All right.
And I'm gonna propose it that you don't have your phone to use references because that's
fair. I told you the first time I've done it. I'll put it away.
I took a look at his phone. He's on CNN.com. That's fake news. We don't want. We don't.
No, so you got it.
Fair point.
It's like if you're having a debate. The whole idea of the show is you have a debate, and if you were talking with somebody, you
on the
pull
fly
out your
interacting.
phone and like hold on a minute.
And I agree with that.
That's just too much of trying to be right. It should be more.
No.
It should be more about
okay,
like
so
what
hold on.
you
That's
feel
where
like.
you're assuming my motives. My motive was to get the quote right because I don't remember them exactly right. That's it. I knew the quote, but I didn't want to misstate.
Whoa, calm down, Tiger.
Do
Okay.
All right,
So
scroll
wait,
down.
I didn't get to finish my point.
Go ahead. Oh, I thought you did.
My point was that we'll be what you said is we'll be picking up. We'll have a show just like this. Somebody will pick up the phone and say that President Bush knew that the World Trade Center was going to be bombed, and that there's documented proof that he did it, and people are going to believe that, and there's going to be a side that don't believe it because it goes back to my point. Perception is truth, and what perception you want to believe is the one you're going to always reference. So I don't know enough about that, Lincoln. I've never read anything about that.
That depends on your predisposition to your own position. If you're out trying to find and refine your position based on truth, I don't accept your argument.
Well,
I do agree. There's a lot of people that
We
dig
should
into their
have
position
a
and they want to be right at
9/11
all
show,
costs.
though. Joe,
Hang on.
because
It's probably coming.
That's a good one.
Hang on. Both great points, and I agree with both, actually.
Such a politician.
No, perception is
You trying
reality.
to get votes, Joe?
Yeah.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Perception is reality, right? And he says it's your predisposition to how much you're given to that perception.
That's right.
I agree 100% with both statements.
In fact,
And I
that's
think
a
y'all,
clickable point.
y'all both
That's a
agree.
clickable point.
What
So-
we are, in fact,
Me, I don't
what
know.
this show is all about is addressing that situation, right? That perception is reality. You want to see things a certain way. Confirmation bias in the psychology world is what it's called. I can quote scripture on this very thing. But what you look for, you will find, right? So if I am looking for the idea that all white people are racist, I'm going to find that. If I'm looking for the idea that all black people are lazy, I don't know, I'm sorry, I just pulled something out of the sky.
That was so racist
Right.
of you to say that.
I'm going to find that. Whatever I'm looking for, I'm going to find, right? That's why Scripture says, pardon me for the reference, love hopes all things, believes all things. That's because when we have love in our heart, I'm looking for the best.
Yes.
I'm looking for the best in people. So it all depends on the perception you're coming from, right? And that becomes your truth, right? So
I want
go ahead.
to close it. And then I think we should.
We're going to address some comments.
Is that whenever someone argues one side or the other and it's opposing of theirs, so like in this case, it's like, did we fight it over the Civil War? It goes back to we are creatures of emotions, men, women, both.
Sure.
And when you argue that point, I believe that those people feel like that you don't, that someone, not you, that the people who argue that, oh, it didn't happen over slavery, they don't care about that it did happen, that those atrocities did happen back then, that they were hanging, they were dragging people because of the color of their skin.
That's an excellent
So
point.
it makes it, it makes, if you're arguing those points, you have to address them and say, look, it was definitely, there was an element of that. And you're trying to, we're trying to come to the future and say, well, people are getting mad at these other people because of because that, and then you're saying, well, you're mad at me over something that's not true. And it's two people like bashing heads because they don't feel like, you don't feel like that. In your case, I think that you don't feel like that you're treating you fairly or judging a group of people fairly. And then they're saying, well, because you argue the opposite, they feel like you don't feel like they're fairly. But I think both people agree.
That's a great.
Yes, that's a great point.
There's another plane I've got circling the airport that
If
I
you can
didn't
quickly
land
land it, because
I'll
I
quickly
want to
land
address some
There's a
great
hurricane coming.
comments.
We
I
need
know,
to
I
land
know.
it, okay?
No, here's the thing, because that is a great point that helps.
You obviously want
remind me
people
of
on the
that.
plane to die.
What happens is a lot of times people will cite the fact that slavery was mentioned in the Articles of Secession, right? And they'll say, so there it is. You know, the war was over slavery because, see, the South said we're going to make sure we have slavery. It's like, okay, that's true. And then to your point, what often happens, because I'll take the position the war didn't happen over slavery, there's some people who will say, well, so you must be okay with slavery because the South did obviously secede over slavery, and you're saying the war wasn't over slavery. Well, the key, the linchpin to all that makes that unravel is that no, linchpin's different, not lynching. No. The thing that makes that unravel, the cornerstone that makes that unravel or fall apart, is that secession is not an act of war.
Right.
That was what the big debate was at the time, for whatever debate you want to call it, because it was so widely understood. In fact, West Point had taught all the way up until that time that secession was a basic right of the states under the Constitution, because the founders had actually done that themselves. So go back to Horace Greeley. How can you say that the American Revolution was not a civil war, but this is a civil war, when what the southern states did was declare their independence from the Union?
All right, so real quick, we're going to take a moment now to address a lot of great comments that have gone by. Guys, I also want to remind you, for those who have tuned in, since we started the show, we have a pretty awesome contest going on. You will want to make sure you go to the Whine No Whine Show page, click on the blue button that says Send Message, and drop in the comment, Contest Details. Contest Details. And it'll tell you what you need to do in order to enter the contest and win the prize.
And you can just write those 2 words, right?
Just those 2 words.
No punctuation.
Contest details, contest space details. That's it. Contest space details. And you'll find out how to enter the contest and win the big prize. So, addressing a couple comments here. Don said he just got here, and what a motley crew we had. Yes, this is a motley crew. These are the people who will show up to argue about crap just because they get to drink wine, even when there's a freaking hurricane happening.
That's the only reason why I'm here.
Bring it, Harvey.
Bring it on, Harvey. That's right. That's right. Charity said, I agree with the guy in the blue cap. Sorry, forgot your name. Randall. It's Randall. I agree with the guy in the blue cap. Why do we still have military in the Middle East? Money and power. There's always an alternative motive. Great point, Charity. Don then said, hey, how about they renamed a school from Lynch Meadows, named after the family that donated the land to Meadows. Lynch was harsh. Should Loretta Lynch change her name then?
Robert Lee is
I
going to
know.
set people off.
If Robert Lee needs to be let go from ESPN, I think
he wouldn't let go now. He was only reassigned.
That's reassigned. Right.
Reassigned.
Jed Martin chimed in. Jed said, I seriously doubt that the average Confederate soldier was fighting to preserve the institution of free labor that he had to compete against in normal life.
Way to go, Jed.
To put food on the table. Yeah, that's a great point.
1% of the population practiced slavery. That's exactly right.
Ken asked the
I
question.
thought it was even less than that.
Ken said, how do we know who wins then? He was referring to the point that I said that, this is not about winning the argument or proving one side's right. Ken, this is how you know somebody wins on this show. Seek first to understand. When people of opposing views actually slow down enough in their brain to slip out of, let me insult this guy, to say, I don't get where you're coming from, help me understand.
Right.
When you start seeing that happening, you know the show won. That's what it's about. Stephanie said...
In other words, I won.
Stephanie asked, earlier, I asked for clarity. Stephanie said, I disagree. I said, what do you disagree with, Stephanie? So Stephanie chimed in, and she said, why agree with someone who spews non-factual garbage, but believes they are correct because that is their belief? I disagree. I see no point in perpetuating opinions and smoke and mirrors just because it's what someone feels is correct. Stephanie, I cannot tell you how much I get where you're coming from, all right? It drives me crazy. The point of the show isn't that we're saying that.
It was me.
Maybe so.
I don't know what
when she said that, it was because
I
said perception is truth.
So
I could answer it.
I'm going to finish and then turn it back over to you guys, right? Stephanie, the point is this, is that I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not saying, yes, you're right, even though you're offering facts and stuff. They're just pulling out of their rear end, right? My point is to say, why do you feel that way? Why do you think that? Do you have anything to support that? Where are you coming from in what you believe? Because what happens is, when I immediately go on the attack, and I say, you're a freaking moron, you're presenting stuff that's BS, it's fake news.
That's a lie, yeah.
That's a lie, it's fake news,
right.
Your source is crap. All that stuff, all they feel like is attacked. And they're not going to hear a word you have to say.
Well, and even beyond feeling attacked, the thing is, you're closing yourself off to something someone else may know that you don't know. Even if it does turn out that their facts are crap, I mean, to use your verbiage, right?
Well,
It was mine. I owned it.
But the point is to go down that road with them, and I mean, I think Randall. The funny thing is, we both took that like I think she might have been talking about me. You think she might have been talking about you because I have got the
when
same
she posted,
argument.
it was me.
Well,
I've seen it come through.
I agree, but I'm just saying. I think both could address that comment because it's you know, I have the same people say the thing about me, and they don't know what my sources came from. I didn't make this stuff up.
Well,
right?
At the end of the day, all those things we could not change. So we argue at mute point. So it's like, why argue about it? It's not changing anything.
Well, it becomes
But let me
moot,
finish
though.
the thing. So the rest her point is her point, because I wanted to address her. We were going to get
Yeah,
into
he
it.
was actually going to start, and then I stole it from him, and he
Yeah,
took it from
My
there.
fault. All right.
That's all right. It's both of us. So.
There's a great image, and it has two people who's standing across from each other, and written on the ground is the number 6. If you stand on one side,
I know.
and if you stand on the other side, it's a guy, and it says, "What do you see?" And I said, "I see a 9." "What do you see?" "I see a 6." And if one of those people do not come off of their facts and say, "Well, the curve of a 9," I have, you know, we can talk to Copernicus, and he'll tell you this is a 9, and you know, or whatever, and quote me until someone on one opposing side has at least enough in them to, you know, go on the other side in this example and go, it is a 6. And they go, come over to my side and go, oh wow, that is a 9.
Or at least from over here it is.
Yeah. So my whole point
Right.
is you understand perception is truth. Find their perception, because just because you have a Harvard, Yale, somebody was a Pulitzer Prize winner. There's Pulitzer Prize winners and people who are great writers who write on both sides. So you have two people and like, well, whose facts are facts? And none of us were actually there. So then they have to pull out, well, who were the people who were writing the facts back then? And there's opposing people on either side who are writing
Which is
the
why
facts.
it's up to us to
who are the
investigate
people that I
all
agree
sources.
with?
Well, let me
Let me land the plane.
Because there are people doing it now. There are people who are writing history for both sides that 100 years from now, people will, like Joe said a minute ago, which was whatever they will believe, they will search for that, and they will find a Yale professor or a Harvard grad or whoever you think is your credible source who wrote about what you believe in, and then they'll refer to every show on CNN if it was on that side, and then they will argue that, and then the other side will have the same thing. And then you're left with, well, which one of them are right, because they are using facts.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a real important distinction with what you're saying, and I take the example about what you said about the circle and square earlier and the 6 and the 9 now, right? But there also comes a point where we're not talking about 6s and 9s and circles and squares. You know, when you're looking at an island and all you have around the island is the ocean, it doesn't matter what part of the ocean you're in, you look and it's an island. You might disagree on the size and shape of the island, but that thing's an island, okay? And a lot of times we get so bogged down in perceptions and subjective truths that we don't focus on the objective truths. And there is, or are, a multitude of empirical evidence that you can go to, and yes, it is up to all of us to use the at least minimum of 2 brain cells we all have to rub together to form intelligent thought.
Narrowing it down.
And that's right, narrow it down and get to the point where you can look at somebody and go, I can read something Randall wrote and I understand, here's Randall's bias. Randall doesn't stand for a thing that I stand for, but you know what? I can recognize he wrote something true here, and I'm going to take that and run with it, right? You have to be able to have the ability, to your point, to step outside of your own side. What is your investment in this? What is your self-interest? And get around that self-interest and go, even aside from my self-interest, what are the other arguments? And to this point about the Civil War, I mean, again, empirical evidence. 6 states had already left the Union when Lincoln gave his first inaugural address. And at that time, he said, I have no purpose against slavery. I don't care if we keep it or if it goes away, as long as we keep the Union together.
Here's the thing.
He met wide approval when he spoke in the northern states about letting the South go and letting them do their own thing. And in his inaugural address, the only thing that he cited as a cause for war and invasion was if the southern states did not pay their taxes.
Real quick, you still have a comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, audience, I want to say, first of all, Tybreeze said this earlier. I think it's refreshing that we are discussing this.
Agreed.
All right? That's the point. Guys, just because we're talking on the show here, we may not be able to get to your comment. There's a lot of great comments going by. interact with each other, talk with each other. That's the freaking point of the show.
Stephanie's
It's
clever.
beautiful. You guys have a ton of great comments going on, and I'm watching them go on. I'm just having to bite my tongue because I want to comment on them.
Mhm.
It's great stuff. All right. And I will read Stephanie's comment real quick, and then we'll turn it over to Joe. I think it's great here. Stephanie said, okay, because some people believe all cops are abusive and corrupt, that doesn't make it true that all are corrupt and abusive. I know I'm not and have never been. And my daughter just moved the quote on me. I think it rolled down. I know I'm not and never have been, not once in over a decade of wearing a badge.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. No, not a belief. That's a fact. And I wanted to read that one for this particular reason. David touched on it. We're talking about subjective truth versus objective truth. And Randall gave a couple great examples how perception is a perceived truth. I wanted to clarify that. Perceived truth versus actual truth. Right? Because what happens is, in reality, there is a truth. You may have seen the example that he referenced. If you look at a 6 from the top, it looks like a 9. If you look at a 6 from the bottom, it looks like a 6, right?
Or the other way around, one of the two.
If you look at a 6 from the bottom, it's a 6, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, from above, it's a
gotcha.
9, right? The perception, the subjective truth then, is that from the guy on the top's perception, it's a 9, and he is absolutely correct, and the guy on the bottom is a 6. That's the analogy. Where it falls apart is that there is an absolute truth in asking both parties from what point is it being viewed. Because as soon as you ask both those parties from where it's being viewed, it becomes absolute truth. In that if it's being viewed from the bottom, it's absolutely a 6. It's indisputable it's a 6, and it's never a 9. And likewise with the top.
Or
That's
asking the guy who drew the number.
Right. Or exactly. From which position is this to be viewed?
Right.
And this is what Stephanie is speaking to. Right. There is absolute truth, and it behooves all of us to work towards that. To Randall's point, to step outside of our preconceived ideas, our perceptions, and ask, am I viewing it from the absolute truth position? Let me examine all the facts, right? And take that in. That's the point.
Because if you ask Joshua Chamberlain, he'll say he fought over slavery, and he was a colonel.
Oh, there's no shortage of
And he was
people
a
on
colonel.
either side.
He was a colonel in the army.
Yeah.
So it was his
He went to war over slavery. Yeah, he did. That's right.
So if you ask, that was the whole premise that I started out with, in the beginning to set the stage for all of that.
Yeah, and nothing to detract from that. You're right. I mean, there are certainly people on both sides, Union and
Joe,
Confederacy,
yourself a point, by the way?
that fought over
No.
one
These
side or the
guys
other.
are using their white privilege.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, come on, man. I mean, are you even legal?
They gotta use their white privilege here.
I keep saying we barely let Joe on the show.
They barely do.
Come on, you
It's only because
Here's,
of his,
look, I just wanted to say, is this a final,
make your point, dude.
okay.
Dude,
my-
there's a
my
hurricane
point
coming.
is-
We got no schedule.
Yeah. We might be here all night.
We might have to
Live for 24 hours.
That's exactly
I
right.
got my Pop-Tart.
My point is,
I'm in.
we all want to talk about subjective views and perception. All that is great. You want to look at a 6 one way or the other, that's great. But some things, no matter how you look at them, they're a fact.
Right.
Okay. There are some things you cannot deny. And some people out there, on whatever side you're on, don't like the facts. And they don't like talking about them. White people, black people, Hispanic people, doesn't matter. Okay? And we were talking about this earlier in the room. I said, you can say a certain thing or a stereotype depending on if it's negative or positive, that makes you racist. If you say black people are lazy, well, that's racist. If you say, you know what, black people, they're just ridiculously strong, they're great at sports. Hey, that's not racist anymore.
Right.
Hey, thank you, brother.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I don't know about that. Jimmy the Greek got fired because he made that statement.
Yeah, well,
He was
His was a little different.
He said they're good red blood cells. Because they have more red blood cells, they're better athletes.
But there was a reference
well, okay,
to...
look, what I'm saying
There's
is...
an animal reference.
Hang on.
I didn't say anything
let him land
about
the
red
plane.
blood
Yeah.
cells or anything like that. I'm just saying that, hey, black people they run faster, okay? They're stronger, and that's not racist, okay?
Right.
Same thing with Hispanic
His
people.
point is that as long as the statement does,
As long as
doesn't
the
offend
statement
you,
is positive,
Right.
you're not racist. I can say, hey, look, Hispanics, man, they're hard workers. Hey, man, you're a good guy.
My favorite
You
example.
know what? Hey, they drink too much and they drive drunk. Hey, that's racist.
Right.
Which they do.
No. My favorite
Come
example
on.
of that is
They
actually,
do. You know who you are.
To go with
Miss
the-
They do.
Moncada, I
Miss
do not support him in that statement. I'm so
They do.
sorry.
They do. My
To
mom
go-
loves some wine.
Let me go with your basketball track on that, because one of my favorite examples of that to
Oh,
make
wait,
that point.
I wasn't done. Give me 30
Oh, yeah,
seconds.
no,
30
no.
seconds.
Land the plane. He's landing the
I'm
plane.
landing the
It's
plane.
coming in, I see
My point is, we all gotta stop being so damn sensitive, okay? Stop. Black people are this way, Hispanic people this way, white people this way. Hey, white, like you said earlier, white men can't jump. Well, most of them can't, okay? So what?
I'm proof.
That's just the way it is. Let's stop being snowflakes, as they say,
Right.
okay?
I agree.
And move on with our life. Go ahead, take it off.
Yeah, well, to your
I'm glad
point, I
you-
mean, I totally agree, because Larry Bird is one of the great basketball players of all time, white, black, or anything else. But he's very well known as having been on record as saying that he got deeply, and still believes to this day, as far as I know, he got deeply offended if the opposing coach would put a white guy on him to guard him, right?
'Cause he
Now,
thought he was.
imagine if a black basketball player had said that,
Can't do that.
right?
Mm-mm.
And it's like, hold on a minute. I mean, the point is, there could be a healthy debate over differences between the races.
That's
We can have a
right.
healthy debate about that. What if it turned out that one race was more intelligent than other races, and
The
one
Asians.
and one race was
Frickin'
more
Asians.
They're really
athletic
smart.
than another race?
But nobody talks about Asian
Or like
privilege.
Reggie White got
We're
in
afraid of
trouble.
them.
Remember,
They're
10,
smart.
12, 15 years ago, Reggie White got in a lot of trouble because he went on a long diatribe about the different ethnicities and how they were predisposed to
I
one
remember that.
positive trait or another. It's like, to me, it's one thing to think, okay, the guy's off his rocker because he's just wrong. That's fine if you think that, but it's not racist.
No, it's not.
He's just noting his own observations, and I think we need to, before we can really have a full conversation that really is productive for everyone involved, we got to come to terms about what is racism. What is it? Define it. That's like what I said to you earlier. When someone, even in making the arguments about the Civil War, I've had people who claim to be constitutional conservative white men tell me I'm racist because I'm arguing that this was a states' rights issue, right?
Racist doesn't even mean racist.
It had nothing to do with this.
Right.
And that's what I think. I shut them down by going, define racist for me. Define it. And then all they can come back with is, you. Well,
Can I
okay,
say
so it's an
something?
insult. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
I
all it is.
want to say,
Randall, jump in.
Ashley, she works with Dr. Hotze. He's a health and wellness doctor here in Houston. I wanted to say thank you for coming on. She just made the comment. She came late. And if
You're
you
here.
ever want to have somebody debate any Civil War, that is the gentleman you need to talk to. That's Dr. Hotze.
Oh, yeah.
He's a conservative. He runs the. If you could put a couple of his stuff, his conservative news stuff up there. That guy knows his stuff. I mean, his whole office is decorated in Civil War stuff.
I'd love to meet him.
I want to end with this because I know the show is. And I want to make sure that I'm clear to everybody.
Got the, wine
Oh,
rating
sure.
thingies.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Randall.
So, my the initial opening was understanding people is a premise that I try to live by. I don't always, do a great job at it, but I work hard at it, and I consciously try to do those things, which is, understand where they're coming from. And, if you talk to a Jew about, the atrocities that happened to them, and are still, happening to them now, they'll have an opinion because it's based on facts that's happened to them. If African Americans and back at those and during the Civil War times, they're going to have an opinion. I think you referenced it before, the Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. You had used a quote from that. I read that book.
You and I talked about it, yeah.
If I think every person should read every race. First off, this is a great book, and it gives you some context from somebody who actually was living in those age, and there were good things that he had to say about people who worked. I don't want to use slavery word because it's such a divisive word, but people who were slaves and were slave owners, and that how when the slaves were emancipated, how they actually they lost their businesses, and those slaves actually took them in. Mm-hmm. And there was ones that didn't for whatever reason.
Sure.
the overarching point for me is that I have to sympathize with that group because my families were from my mom's side were Jewish, so those Jews had to go through some things, and I wasn't there, nor was my mom, but relatives were there. And same with, it's somewhere down the line, people had grandfathers and ancestors that were during those times that their life could have been different had things been different for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I always arguing the point doesn't change that it happened, but understanding that the butterfly effect was in effect in that moment.
Right.
That things could have been different for people, and that's where they find themselves now is caught in this, this whirlwind of could we say that it was related to that? I don't know, but they would have a decent argument. And so I'm just supportive of that. Whether the facts that we went to war over slavery or not is not the point. The point is, did they have slaves, and were there slaves that were treated bad, and were there people that fought to free those people, and people that risked their lives to get slaves out of, during when there was slaves. And there was a lot of people who suffered and have family members that aren't here, that couldn't generate generations.
And you know what? This kind of goes to when Joe and David were making these opposing points, and I brought this up. I said that the whole point is to learn to seek first to understand.
Right.
And what we're experiencing now is when we have groups that are just adamantly, opposing statues of General Lee and that sort of thing. It's not about the statue. If you think it's about the statue, you've really missed the point, right? You have to seek to understand where they're coming from, and if you address the underlying root, right? That at the end of the day, for a lot of people on a certain side of the aisle, they're just saying, look, I feel like I'm not getting an equal shot at life here.
Or they're not being heard.
Right. Equal shot at life,
Yeah.
right? I because of my skin color or whatever else, I don't feel like I'm getting an equal shot at life. Until you make that person feel like you understand where they're coming from, you're going to be arguing points that none of them are ever going to hear.
Exactly.
Right? That's really the lesson, right? And that's the point of the show, guys, is to seek first to understand, to learn how to try to empathize with where the person's coming from. Whether they're right or not doesn't matter. That's not the point. As soon as they feel understood, now you can get to the table and start talking about facts in a more rational, logical way. That's the lesson of the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and if I can tie it down, just to bookend that on my side, we're going to land it over here.
Land the plane.
Is to say that because from my side of the equation, even though I'm on the opposite side as Randall and other people who don't agree with my take on it, the point that I'm always trying to make to people who feel that way is, number one, the only way that we can make our life the best they can be is head up, eyes forward, keep your eyes on the prize, right? If you're going to adopt this view about trying to find blame for why your life turned out the way that it did, it's never going to end. You're going to be constantly miserable. And the other side of that is to also point to the fact that, yes, we had a country that was born an imperfect country in an imperfect world. And it was because of the work of our founders, and as much as people may or may not want to accept it, even the work of the Confederacy, they were pursuing those ideals rooted in the Constitution to say sovereignty of the states, to say this is how we preserve our rights. The reason that we have the ability that every single person who is an American citizen can have this voice of dissent, to have this voice against the government or against the majority or whoever it may be, is because of these heroes, whether they wore Confederate uniforms or Union uniforms or American Revolutionary uniforms, or if they were a great governor or a great president or whatever. As long as they upheld those ideals of the Constitution, that is what asserted our rights, because we're a nation of the rule of law.
I'm going to give you a topic for the next episode, Joe.
What's that?
You said look your eyes forward and try the best you can. Affirmative action.
Oh.
Agreed.
Affirmative,
matter.
yeah.
It's all these things that are...
But that's for the next show.
Next show.
That's
next
for the
show.
next show.
Right.
Let's go.
Guys, we're gonna wrap up. We're going to rate the wine today. I want to finish up real quick for those of you who still have tuned in. Tabitha, Malia, Kat, Vinda, Esmeralda, thank you guys for being a part of the show. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Tybreeze, I need to have you on the show. I want to have you on the show.
Thank you for your positive affirmation. Tybreeze.
Yes, thank you for chiming in and sharing your thoughts. Super appreciated. Ashley, thanks for commenting and being a part of the show. Tell Dr. Hotze he needs to be on the show. I would love to have him on the show. I know he's got some thoughts. Today's wine is called Terrazas. Terrazas. I don't know if you can see that. From Argentina, Mendoza. It's a Malbec, and we are going to rate the wine now. So, Joe,
Okay.
how was the Malbec?
So,
Ooh, good one.
Crack that.
Ow.
So, I prefer.
A little scratch.
This is my little super glue.
It'll be fine.
You said that on your phone. It's just a stretch.
I prefer something a little sweeter. This is a little dry. So I have to. I rate it a little lower than normally the wines that you give it, Joe. But I do have a
Totally
public
fair.
service announcement because I heard during the hurricane, Taco Bell was still open. Just so you know, Taco Bell is fake Mexican food. So other than that, I give it a 3.
All right.
Fake tacos.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna adopt this one. It's a 3 and a slither. It's a slither. It's not even a number. It's a slither.
3.125.
Yeah, 3.125. I'm just getting into wines. I don't know what you call it when it's a full body. Is that what it would be called?
Yes.
Yeah.
A Malbec is a full body
it's
wine.
a full body wine. That one
What
was
does that even mean?
a little bit too full for me.
Bold. Bold flavor.
Bold. A little too bold. And just to end on that Taco Bell, that they have the same 18 ingredients for everything that they make. They're all exactly the same.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Very true.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to skip me. I'm going to go to Dave.
Oh, surprise, surprise. All right, well, yeah, here's the thing. I don't have a detailed rating on this wine today. All I can say is I enjoyed the conversation, and I didn't notice the wine. So, like, it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was wine. So, you know what, and actually, I think I'm actually going to change mine. I'm going to go 3 and a sliver, too.
3.125.
No.
Yeah, that's
3.225.
Yeah, 3.025, actually.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I like that, though. That's a good rating.
She gave you a
3 and sliver.
3.2.
I like that.
3.2.
That's fine, 3.2. I'll go with that.
And I normally would just go in turn, but I wanted to close with this because this is kind of a fun point. We've done now 19 shows. 19. And only on 2 out of 19 have we not had a wine club wine. Right? And only
Oh.
only
It's
out
not
of
Wine Club?
and only out of one of those 2 did I choose a wine that I've never had before. Previously, the only other wine that we had that wasn't a wine club wine was a wine I already knew was a great wine, right? And that was Los Vascos from Argentina, fantastic Cabernet, great wine, and it got great
I was
ratings.
going to ask you if that was from the club.
And so, I just want to point out that consistently, with 19 shows, 36 different people, 36 different guests, we get great ratings time after time on Wine Club wine.
That's right.
And when I went to the store, and this is rated, by the way, I went to, it used to be Goody, and they just got bought out by True Wine or something like that. What's the name of the place? I forgot what it's called. They just got bought out by a big chain. Tons of bottles. I literally shopped every single Malbec in their inventory on Vivino, found the highest rated bottle of wine that they had in the place, brought it here, and we had it, and it got one of the lowest ratings we've had on the wine show.
Yep.
We didn't know that before we started.
Yeah.
None of these guys knew that beforehand. The wine club that we are a part of, this is shameless plugging, consistently has blown these wines out of the water.
Yes.
We're getting freaking amazing wine in our wine club. So if you're a wine drinker and you want to know about the wine club, you better hit me up because the wine is absolutely fantastic. And this little experiment drove that point home.
Yes.
Much better. We got Ash. So I'm giving this a 3.
No sliver?
No sliver. And you pointed out a great point. It's actually a really dry wine.
Yeah, really dry.
And I'm not a fan of dry wine, but it had a kind of a weird finish to it.
Yeah.
The dry was okay. The flavor was okay.
Well,
but
it all gets the job done.
It
Joe,
does
so
linger,
it doesn't
yeah.
matter.
yeah, the linger was kind of weird. And Vivino gave this a 4.1 rating. So, you know, it's not a terrible bottle of wine, but definitely not the best bottle of wine we've had on the show by any means. And I'll tell you, the wine club Malbec that we had called Miravas from Argentina on Vivino has a 4.3 rating. 4.3.
And night and day difference.
Night and day difference. Yeah. Night and day difference. Blows it out of the water.
So what's the rating for this
4.3.
one?
So what's the average rating on this one? We had a 3, a 3.2.
Me and Randall are going to take over the show next week.
3.1. Wow.
We're going
Three
to
and a
have a
sliver.
Heineken.
3.1. Actually,
A
the lowest
Heineken.
rating we've had on the show. We're going to go drink some black box wine
That's
to
what we're gonna do
to
right
get this
now.
done. Guys, we want to thank you for being on the show. Be sure to hop over on the wine. Tara just joined.
Tara, call me, please.
What's up,
Robert just joined. He's going to be on the show coming up here. Margarita Neff, thanks for tuning in. Venda, thanks for tuning in.
Linda, you look nice also. Call me.
He's still hitting on women. Look at this.
I'm single.
So anyway, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. Hop over to the Wine No Wine Show page. Be sure to follow the page. And make sure after you like and follow the page, go in and set it to where it's your first view. If you click on it, it will say default. Make sure you see it first so that you get the notices when we go live. And you'll want to click on the send message button and type in the words contest details. And that will tell you how you can win a big prize from the Wine No Wine Show. Wine No Wine Show show. Anyway, thanks for being a part of the show. We'll see you next week, Friday at 5. We are out.
Cheers.